Well, Betty, this is more of an offer than it is a formal budget. Of course, it is a formal budget. It will be sent down to Capitol Hill today. But as you said, the White House really wants the focus this morning to be on the cut side, just where they're cutting spending, and that's on entitlements, Medicare and Social Security. But there are tax increases in there as well, some $580 billion over 10 years. And the message to House Republicans, Betty, it's very clear. You can't have one without the other. Let's take a look at the top line numbers. As you mentioned, $3.77 trillion over 10 years. Now, the deficit reduction, that's 1.8 over 10 years. Revenues, $580 billion. Health savings, $400 billion. A lot of that is from Medicare. Now, all this will add for a first-year budget deficit of $744 billion. Much of what's going to be offered today, Betty, has been privately given to John Boehner and backroom deals. This is the public embrace of those private offers. And we do know the general ratio. It's the same in terms of the mix of spending cuts to tax cuts. It is still 2-to-1, and they want to get that new revenue by closing loopholes, and it's mostly entirely on the wealthy. Now, the plan is to have the deficit reduced to 2.8% of GDP by 2016, and then all the way down to 1.7 by 2023. But Betty, Paul Ryan, his plan brings the deficit to 0 in 10 years. And remember that $400 billion in health savings, that does include a lot from both cost savings, but also reducing payments for Medicare. Betty?
Hans, talk about the spending side of this budget plan.
Sure. So it's front-loaded on the spending, right? That's one of the reasons why we have that big deficit this year. And what they want to do is have new money for roads and bridges. They're proposing a $50 billion plan for infrastructure projects up front. That's roads, bridges. They're also going to do something called creating America's Fast Forward bonds. That's similar to the Build America Bonds program that was fairly successful, that phased out. That was in the stimulus. It also establishes an independent national infrastructure bank. It's a way to leverage private and public capital, get more money out there for infrastructure projects. But on the taxes, it's no surprise where they're going there. They've telegraphed this in the past. It's around the $600 billion, 580 is the exact amount, and it all does it by raising new revenues, not by raising rates. Remember, the rates came at the end of last year with the fiscal cliff deal. They will have limits on deductions, what the wealthiest 2% can do, at 28% as opposed to 35%. And then they'll implement, Betty, the Buffett rule. We've heard about this before. This ensures that millionaires pay at least 30% of their income in taxes. On the tax front, though, Betty, a lot of those things are non-starters. Really watch for what John Boehner says today at 10 o'clock. That's going to frame this discussion moving forward on whether or not it's a serious offer or just more hot air.